Tax fairness. This is something that we've heard a lot of in Canada starting earlier in the year. And, I guess I probably could do a much longer show on tax fairness, probably on its own, or taxes on their own. It is I guess, a point of contention for many investors. It is the number one topic of discussion for investors in general, not just my investors, but I think for investors in general. I'm sure many other investment advisors would agree. Everybody's looking to save money on their taxes. Everybody's looking to pay less tax to I guess pass along their portfolio or an inheritance to the next generation, their kids, in the most tax efficient way. Everything we discuss is about not only making money, growing wealth, but doing it in a tax efficient manner. And tax fairness, to me, the word means someone is paying perhaps too less tax or not enough tax. And then there are other people or individuals, segments of the population that are paying too much tax. That to me would mean we need to get some tax fairness. But that's just not how it works, right? Just because the government decides to raise taxes on, let's say, the higher income earners because they believe they're not paying their fair share, that doesn't mean that the lower income earners will now pay less tax. It just means that the government's going to generate more revenue from the increase in taxes on that segment of the population. So this idea of tax fairness, I don't know where it came from. A lot of people talk about it, but to me, you're not increasing one person's taxes and lowering another. You're increasing one person's taxes and maintaining the taxes on the other person. So to me, this idea of tax fairness, I just don't understand it. I know a lot of people in talking to them, they just don't understand why we don't have a flat rate of tax. That if you make $100,000 or $50,000 of income in a given year, why don't we all pay a flat rate of tax? Yes, someone who makes $100,000, if the rate of tax is 25 or 30%, let's say, then yes, they'll pay $25,000 or $30,000 of taxes. Someone who makes $50,000, well, they'll pay half that amount in taxes. So it makes sense. The more money you make, the more you pay. But everybody should pay perhaps the same rate. And I think that is what many people believe. And it's interesting. I get a lot of individuals talking to me about this idea of higher tax. It's been talked about a lot lately in the United States. I know the current vice president and I guess presidential nominee, Kamala Harris, talking about raising taxes in the United States. Again, this idea of taxing more of the wealthy segment of the United States, increasing taxes, corporate taxes as well. So taxes, once again, is being talked about in the US. They're actually considering taxing unrealized capital gains, which is interesting. I don't know how that would work. But again, increasing taxes, trying to generate revenue, because we know governments are spending a lot. There are a lot of debt on the books with our government here in Canada and the United States. And so what they want to do is they want to continue to tax to hopefully increase revenue. So a lot of people aren't in agreement with that. And I know probably many of you watching today aren't as well. I have a couple of charts here which talk a bit about that. And the first one is total government expenditures of G7 countries as a share of GDP. And you can see here that as a share of GDP, we're actually not bad compared to other G7 nations. Not as good as the United States, but not as bad as some of the European countries, spending a lot more of the money that they take in. Second chart I have here, I think is really the main chart or the main point for this segment. And it talks about all different tax brackets and the confusion by, I know, many Canadians wondering why some Canadians are paying more tax than others. And here we have a chart on Canadian tax brackets. We can pull that up for everyone. There it is. And you can see, based on this chart, where you fall with respect to tax brackets. If you make a certain amount of money, government, for example, OAS gets clawed back as well. That's another thing that government wants to do, but that's fine. I think most people are okay with that because old age security is for those that need it versus those that don't. Whereas here we have tax brackets. You can see if you combine, the federal tax rate with a provincial tax rate, you can get what people's marginal tax rates are based on your income. And again, I just think that talking to a number of individuals, they continue to come to me and they say, I worked hard in school. I got, 2 degrees sometimes, or a master's in business administration, or wherever their master's is. They're a doctor, they're a lawyer, they're a professional of some sort, and now they're doing well in life, and their tax rate is actually above 50%. Their government is making more from them than from their income than they are. And then you take and compare that to someone who perhaps didn't study as hard, didn't get the credentials, didn't work as hard, and their tax rate is a lot lower. So, their thought process is, why are they being penalized for working hard and earning more money? What does it say to our children, our young adults who are right now in college, university, or even in high school? What does it say to them? You work harder, well, you'll be taxed more. And then taking that one step further, you talk to some factory workers, some people that have opportunities to work perhaps a second shift or 1.5 shifts, more time to earn more money. A lot of them will tell you, well, why do we do that? If we work, a second shift, make time and a half, all that extra money will end up just going to the government in the form of taxation. So a lot of things going on. And, to sum it all up, I think the Bank of Canada has been talking about productivity and why Canada has become, or has been for a little while now, a country with the lowest productivity rate of all G7 nations. Is it because of our high tax rate? We know in Ontario, we are at one point, I know we were the 4th highest jurisdiction for taxes in North America. We could still be somewhere around 4th. Perhaps we may have changed that slightly. But overall, tax rates in Ontario, not so much from the provincial side, but when you combine provincial and federal, they are higher. So this idea of tax fairness, wanted to talk a bit about that today. It's been very front and center with many individuals, and it's been front and center with many investors for many, many years. And we're going to have a federal election next year. Perhaps if a new government comes into power, perhaps that may change. If Mr. Trudeau, Prime Minister Trudeau, wins again, and perhaps maybe he'll make a change to tax rates going forward. So tax fairness, something that I think every individual investor has focused on for quite some time.